In the year 2147, beauty had become a measurable resource. It wasn't subjective anymore, not in the way poets once argued about it. Beauty was quantified, indexed, optimized. Neural scans translated facial symmetry, skin uniformity, vocal resonance, and even emotional expressiveness into clean numerical values. Those numbers fed into the civic harmonization system, which quietly sorted people into social tiers. No one called it discrimination anymore. They called it efficiency. I worked for the system not as an engineer but as a linguistic auditor. My job was to review machine-human interactions and ensure the system's language remained emotionally neutral. No cruelty, no bias, just facts. That was the lie we told ourselves. Her file crossed my desk on a gray morning when the city's sky dome flickered between simulated sunlight and rain. Name: Alira Vance. Designation: Aesthetic Tier D. Occupation: Peripheral Systems Maintenance. Civic score: 41.2. Tier D was the lowest tier that still allowed independent living. Below that, people were reassigned. I should have skimmed and moved on. Thousands of files passed through my hands every month. But something about Alira's interaction logs made me stop. The system had flagged her for verbal irregularity. She spoke less than average, avoided mirrors, declined social prompts. When addressed by aesthetic evaluators, automated or human, her neural stress markers spiked sharply. I leaned back in my chair, uneasy. This wasn't malfunction. This was conditioning. I first saw Alira in person 3 days later. A central hub elevator had stalled, trapping 6 of us between levels. The dome lights dimmed, emergency illumination casting everything in pale blue. Alira stood near the back, shoulders slightly hunched, hands folded in front of her like she was trying to make herself smaller. She was ordinary, not grotesque, not deformed, not even asymmetrical enough to justify the system's judgment. Her face was narrow, her features soft, her eyes a muted gray that didn't immediately demand attention. And in a world engineered to worship attention, that alone was enough to condemn someone. A man near the front sighed loudly. Great. Stuck in a box with tier DS. Alira flinched. No one said anything. No one ever did. I watched her closely, not in the way the system did, but in the way you watch someone bracing for impact that never quite comes, except it always does. The elevator restarted a minute later. People filed out. Alira waited until everyone else had gone. That was when I spoke. Hey, I said gently. You okay? She looked at me like I'd spoken in a dead language. Yes, she said after a pause. Thank you. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were already lowering, preparing for dismissal. I surprised both of us by adding, I'm Jonah. I work in linguistic auditing. Her shoulders stiffened. Oh, she said. I'm sorry. For what? For whatever I did wrong. The words hit harder than they should have. You didn't do anything wrong, I said. She nodded automatically, clearly not believing me, and walked away. I couldn't stop thinking about her. Not romantically, not at first. It was something else. A disturbance in the neat narrative I'd helped maintain. So I did what I wasn't supposed to do. I accessed her full historical profile. From early childhood, Alira had tested outside preferred aesthetic parameters. Not drastically, just enough. Teachers adjusted expectations subconsciously. Peers mirrored system cues. Compliments disappeared. Corrections multiplied. By adolescence, the system's feedback loops had done their work. Low engagement due to visual non-optimization. Reduced social investment likelihood. Reinforce realistic self-perception. In plain language, she had been told, again and again, subtly and explicitly, that she was ugly. Not with insults. with silence. I requested an audit interview. She arrived precisely on time, sitting across from me in the neutral-toned observation room. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap. "This won't affect your civic score," I said immediately. Her eyes flickered up. "They always say that." "I know," I replied, "but this one truly won't." She studied my face, searching for something, mockery, perhaps. Finding none, she nodded. We began with standard questions. How did she perceive system prompts? Did she feel they were clear? Fair? Her answers were careful, polite, empty. Then, against protocol, I asked, "Elira, when was the first time someone told you were ugly?" Her breath caught. The room's biosensors spiked instantly. She didn't answer. "I'm not here to record this," I added quietly. I turned the feed off. Her eyes widened. "You can't. I already did." Silence stretched. "I was 6, she said finally. Not directly. A teacher redirected a mirror activity away from me. Said it would be more productive for others." Her voice was flat, practiced. "After that," she continued, "it was everywhere. The system never says the word. People do. Or they don't say anything at all." I felt something tighten in my chest. "And now?" I asked. She hesitated. "Now I try not to take up space." That was when I realized something terrifying. The system hadn't just labeled her. It had trained her to disappear. I should have ended the interview. Instead, I said something no auditor ever should. "Elira," I said, "the system is wrong." She froze, completely still, like prey sensing a trap. "It's not," she said carefully. "It's calibrated. It's biased," I interrupted, "and lazy, and self-reinforcing, and it mistakes visibility for value." She stared at me. I could see the moment her world resisted the idea. Not rejected it, resisted. Like a joint that hadn't moved in years. "Why would you say that?" she asked. "Because I've spent 10 years correcting its language," I replied. "And I've never once corrected its assumptions." Her hands trembled slightly. "I don't understand," she said. I leaned forward, choosing my words carefully, aware, suddenly, of how much power language truly had. "You are labeled ugly," I said, "so the world treated you as if you were. But that label isn't a truth. It's a shortcut, and you paid the cost for everyone else's convenience." She stared at me. Her breathing slowed. Something in her expression changed. Not hope, exactly. Something sharper. Disruption. That was the moment my words stopped her cold. Not because they were kind, but because they were new. People underestimate how dangerous new ideas are to someone who has survived by accepting old ones. She didn't thank me. She didn't smile. She stood up abruptly. "I need to go." "Of course," I said. At the door, she paused. "If what you're saying is true," she said, not turning around, "then everything I've built myself around is wrong." "Yes," I said softly. "I'm sorry." She left without another word. The consequences came quickly. My access privileges were reviewed. My interview flagged for irregularities. A formal warning issued. But something else happened too. Elira filed a petition. Not for reassignment. For reevaluation. That alone was rare. What shocked the council was her argument. She didn't claim she was beautiful. She argued that the system's definition of beauty was functionally obsolete, that it optimized for predictability, not contribution, that it confused desirability with worth. Her petition spread. Others came forward. Tier CS, BS. Even as, quietly admitting they'd lived in fear of falling. The system strained under the influx of contradiction. I was removed from my position. Elira was summoned for review. I wasn't allowed to attend. 3 months later, the civic harmonization system was suspended pending restructuring. They called it a temporary pause. Everyone knew it was something else. I found Alira standing outside the central dome one evening, watching the real sky, unfiltered, imperfect. "They asked me to consult," she said, without looking at me. I smiled faintly. "Of course they did." "I told them no," she added. I blinked. "You did." "They wanted me to help redesign the aesthetic tiers," she said. "I told them I wouldn't rebuild a cage just because they promised to make it roomier." I laughed, surprised. She turned to face me fully. "I don't know who I am without their label," she said. "But I'd like to find out." The city lights flickered behind her. For the first time, she wasn't trying to shrink. She was simply standing. And I realized then that beauty, real beauty, had never been something you measured. It was something you allowed to exist. Alira hadn't been ugly her whole life. She'd been unheard. And once that changed, nothing, no system, no score, could make her small again.